Merhaba, nasılsın? Neredesin? Hangi şehirde oturuyorsun? Good evening. So, final match between Hikaru Nakamura and Levon Aronian still in already was played, and we have score 1-1, two draws. Samsun'da. Çok güzel. I wanted to say muy bien, but this is Spanish. Yani çok güzel. Thank you. So, two draws. Tomorrow we will have tie break. I will try to annotate it too, but we will consider what they are doing in normal time, in classical time control, because it's philosophical question: what is normal, what is out of norm. So Nakamura white in first game, and castle invitation for martial attack after c3 d5, and the main option for white to avoid martial attack is a4, h3, or d4. In this game, Nakamura preferred h3, bishop b7. If d6, c3, of course, is prepared with classical Spanish, but no martial attack anymore. So black should play something else. For example, Breyer system with knight b8, or Zaitsev system, bishop b7, d4, rook e8. And there are many other systems as well. Okay, so bishop b7. Again, to play c3 is not good because d5, so white is playing. Why after h3 d5 not so good? I think because white can just take and take and take, and now c3 square, it's free for white knight, and pawn already on h3. So, for example, here for black it's difficult to start attack because there is no important dampi with queen h4. So at least I didn't see that somebody strong playing d5 after h3. Interesting that after a4 I have seen Dubov played d5, and after e takes d5, knight a5. Yes, it's Ruy Lopez, yes. But in second game, where Aronian was white, it's Italian, but type of position very close to Ruy Lopez. This is a game Bjerre Dubov, and Dubov won in brilliant styles. Okay, after d5, white has alternative. Bishop takes d5, for example, possible as well. But it's quite tricky. So h3, bishop b7, d3, and now principal line for black is to play d5, takes, knight takes e5, knight d4 with quite a good compensation. Sometimes white is playing here knight bd2 or knight c3 as well, but okay, it's another topic. So d6, now black has positional threat knight a5 to exchange important Spanish bishop. So a3, idea to have a2 square. And I remember that Levon played here quite often knight a5 and then c5 and then knight c6 and then bishop c8, bishop e6 in some moment. But today he decided to play my variation, knight d8. Why is this might? Because I was the first player who played knight d8 in this position. It was my game against Shiro, and I equalize it after d4, e takes d4, knight takes d4, rook e8, knight f5, knight e6, then bishop f8 or c5. Very important only not to play automatically bishop f8, because after bishop g5, white is in big trouble. Black is in big trouble, because after knight takes e4, bishop g4 is coming with threat knight h6 check. But after knight e8, so it is my game against Shiro, and it's totally playable position. And also later I had a game with white already against Grishchuk. Okay, I was slightly better, but game ended with draw. But in both of this game, d4 was played. Now Nakamura prepared knight h2. I don't know, maybe knight h2 was played as well in this position, but at least I didn't see. By the way, idea, of course, knight h2 and knight g4, it's very standard idea, but in this concrete position, I'm not sure that it were a game, or at least games in a strong level, I didn't see. Another possible idea is here is rook f8, and then to decide probably knight d8, knight e6 later. Or rook a e8, another flexible move, and then black also can think about knight d8, knight e6 plan, but another plan is bishop d2, for example, if bishop d2, to play bishop d8, and then knight e7, knight g6, Carlsen style. But okay, it were many games. So knight d8, knight h2, so only from this position is new for me. So, and we will try to understand together how good players are playing here. So knight e6, very natural move. Knight g4, also understandable. And now black has choice. Aronian played king h8. I don't know what his idea. Maybe in future he is thinking about f5, and important to go away with his king from influence of white bishop b3. Probably this is idea, probably something else. Probably somewhere he has idea to play knight g8 if white will not take immediately. It's also possible knight g8 and then f5, like for example in this variation in Italian. Bishop c4, knight f6, d3, bishop e7, castle, castle. For example, bishop b3, d6, c3. Now one of possible plans is king h8 and knight g8 and then f5. Okay, I never believe that this is really good for black, but it's Grand Prix. Go back. So in such type of position, black has idea king h8, knight g8, or for example after rook e1, d6, a4, something like this, knight c3, knight g8, d4, f5. Okay, maybe not in this position. Maybe not in this position. Because wait here. What this? Because I remember in some moment d takes e5, f takes e4, knight takes e4, rook takes f3, but okay, not in this position. But okay, so this is in some variation of Italian game, black is doing such a plan, but I can just repeat that I never believe that this is really good for black. Who will win tomorrow? Difficult to say. Okay, I hope Nakamura will win. I don't know why, but okay, if it not means, of course, that I have something negative against Levon, but if I should choose one of the player, okay, my choice is Nakamura. Which one is more sharper, Italian or Spanish? It's impossible to tell because there are too many different variations, different variation in both of these openings. So underdog, what is underdog? So it's something modern, but I don't know what is this. What is my next tournament? In Saturday I will play in Chess.com. Okay, let's go back to the game. So King H8 played Levon. That's not the favorite. Uh-huh. Okay, but it's difficult to say who is really favorite in match Nakamura Aronian. Underdog outsider. Okay, so I think it's roughly equal chances. No, I will not stream. I want just to concentrate on the play. Knight forward. Let's see. Okay, knight c5 is possible, by the way, but after knight c5, probably the endgame is slightly better for white. So it's not necessary to take immediately because queen is protected. So probably just bishop a2 is possible to play. Because queen g4, hg4, this changing of structure is obviously in favor for white of white. So Hikaru starts to play in different flank. It's not forced. So bishop d4, for example, looks like totally possible alternative. It's not so natural because much more natural looks like of course white black has compensation after rook b8, queen c4, hello, knight takes b3, c takes b3. Black has white has bad pawn structure, but one of these pawn are okay, how to say, extra, an extra. And also, of course, after bishop takes d5, to take with bishop and enjoy with two bishops advantage. Why not? So it's I try to understand what was reason Nakamura didn't play bishop d5, and it seems I have idea. So probably bishop d8 actually was prepared, and after knight takes b4, f5. So this was idea, and after e takes f5, yes. I'm just explaining this. So f5, and if e takes f5, knight d4 is coming, and black has quite serious compensation. So this is explanation. Okay, maybe after bishop d8, white can consider something else, like bishop e3, for example, with idea to have knight b6. Okay, after c6, white can take on b4 simply. After a5, for example, something like rook a d1, and if c6, knight b6. Okay, c6 it's not necessary. Black can play also c5 to prepare bishop c6, for example. Okay, it's complicated game. So knight d5, hello, I planned to play and position is quite complicated. But Nakamura chose a different plan, knight e2 and queen d8. Okay, it's possible, but it's move which hardly can be called like natural ones. Black has many other possibilities. For example, g6 is possible, knight c5 is possible, exchange queens. So bishop d8 is possible. So it's quite rich position. I have no feeling that mm, white has any advantage from the opening. So I don't understand why, because I don't see any advantage for white. Okay, it's playable position, but what are trumps for white in this position? It's not easy to understand for me. Okay, so Levon played queen d8. So probably his idea is to prepare bishop c8 and attack queen g4 and to make his knight free for any jumps. Thanks for subscription. F5, okay, can be, but first of all, black need to go somewhere with his bishop, and this requires some time, of course. F4, F4, okay, F4 hardly good idea, because I will just take and bishop cannot take because b2 is hanging. After knight takes f4, knight d4 even. So black at least can exchange this bishop, and very strong pressure against b2 pawn. So white has problem with rook a1 and bishop c1. So f4 immediately. It's too optimistic. But anyway, I don't like how Hikaru played opening. Доброго дня, played opening in this game. So it looks like black has no any problem at all in this position. But okay, so it not means that black is better. It's just position which playable for both. c3 takes g6. Another possible idea is bishop c8, of course, now to see where queen will go. If queen g3, bishop h4 is possible, and then f5. If queen f3, knight g5 can be considered, or bishop g5 with idea to push f5. Tomorrow, if I will do it live, live hardly possible, because I have other plans for tomorrow's, but I can comment in the evening after the finishing daybreak. So bishop c8 is possible alternative. So knight c5 and knight d4 is threat. If queen g3, bishop g4. If queen f3, bishop g5. So looks good to prepare f5. Okay, g6 is possible as well, bishop d5. Again, even here, bishop c8 is totally possible. About time control, is too long. What exactly time control is? Can somebody explain me? Because I don't know what exactly time control in Berlin. Okay, so bishop d5 and black has same choice. So bishop c8 is possible. Uh, 20 or 30 moves quickly and then 2 hours to take. Okay, it's something very original. I don't make. So bishop h8, bishop h6 played Nakamura. And now Aronian took on d3. Okay, so it's a very original time control. I don't know what I'm thinking about because I have never played with such time control. So Aronian took on d3. Another totally possible option is bishop g7. After bishop g7, king take g7, and black is totally okay, of course. But probably Levon decides that in this position he can pretend for more than equality. So knight takes d3, he chooses, bishop takes f8, knight takes e1, rook takes e1, rook takes f8. So what we uh, can see in this position, black has extra pawn. Of course, this is good news, and it's difficult to say if white has enough compensation or not. Okay, queen c4, there are some ideas in queen's flank, but okay, I have feelings that only black can be better. So queen a8 played Aronian, logical move. Also, maybe also was interested to play bishop g5, for example, only after queen takes a6 to play queen a8 with idea to activate pieces as soon as possible, but not so clear if it's really strong. Because rook a1 is coming, and if rook a5 c4, and then white has idea knight c3 and knight b5. Probably this endgame is good for white because black cannot immediately attack c4 pawn if rook c5, e5 is coming. So queen a8, it's logical. Aronian wants just defend his pawns. Maybe a5 is possible as well, but okay, queen a8, rook b1. So white idea probably to play queen c6 in some moment, and after takes to penetrate rook b7 and try to create some threats. So it's not obvious that compensation is enough, but in practical game not so easy to play with black as well. So rook b8 played Levon, maybe rook c8 was interesting idea, just to protect the pawn and prepare c6. Not immediately because pawn f7 is hanging, but okay, next move king g7 or king g8 and after c6. If queen c6, this is possible, but the question if it's really strong. For example, takes, king g7, rook b7, king f8, rook a7, king e6, rook takes a6, d5, and king d6. Black should be better. Okay, probably here white has more aggressive plan with c4. Then knight c3, knight d5 is idea. If e4, knight g3, so it's not so clear. But maybe also black can start with d5, not allow plan c4, knight c3, if rook d1, rook d8, and if only rook b7 white will play, so black will try to improve his king as soon as possible. Yes, so rook c8 was quite serious alternative in my opinion. Also same idea, king g7, because queen takes c7 at the moment it's not a threat because black can take on d5. And again, if queen c6, black can just take and play d5 with same ideas which I already explained. But Levon played rook b8, rook b4, king g7, knight g3. So Hikaru fighting for some compensation, but I don't know if this kind of compensation enough or not. At least this is not obvious for me. But okay, at the moment, somewhere he has threat take on b8 and to play to take on a6 immediately. If do it probably queen b1 and queen e1 unpleasant, and white cannot defend f2 pawn by a good way. Okay, thanks. Congratulations with another good lesson. So knight g3, h5 playing Levon, because other moves possible as well. So it's possible, totally possible. Come back to idea with rook c8. So h5. I'm not so sure that h5 is good move because, but necessary to understand what he wants. Okay, more or less obvious that knight wants go to e4. So what is the reason to play h5? Maybe he played h5 with idea to defend against queen g4 and then knight h5. Maybe this is explanation of h5, but I don't know if it's so necessary. Probably there are different methods to fight with this plan. So black has choice. Maybe bishop d8, for example, was totally possible. But now maybe white can take on a6, and after queen b1, knight f1 is possible, and suddenly a pawn became quite dangerous for black. So knight g3 not only threat queen g4, but also there is idea to take and take on a6. Okay, black can consider simply take, and after c takes b4, queen b7, queen g4 is hardly dangerous because king f8, for example. But now white has planned knight e4 and then probably knight c3 and then b5. But only question how strong it is. For example, bishop e8, knight c3, yes, it's quite strong. After f5, a5 even possible, and then b5, and a pawn became queen c4 and h4. Okay, queen c4, it's logical, but h4, I don't know if there is some reason for white to play in king's flank with their pawns. So knight g3, h5 played Lebon. Now, okay, if white taking on b8 and a6, black has h4. This is understandable, and this pawn can be useful for attack. Although not so clear how to attack after knight f1, but okay, so at least black can try to create some threats. For example, even possible to play e4 here, because obviously white cannot take on e4 because queen b1 check. So it's another possibility. In some moment, e3 also can be unpleasant threat. Why Aronian play Italian when it's just D? Okay, for me it's not so simple Italian. I think game utilize his a pawn, but there are not obvious bishop d8. So, for example, why not bishop e7? Queen takes c7. This is a good explanation. So, queen takes c7. If rook takes b4, c takes b4, queen takes d5, queen takes e7, queen takes d4, queen. Okay, so this line it's so bishop d8, queen d6. I mean this. Queen takes e7, queen takes e4, queen takes d6. Looks like drawish somehow. So bishop d8. Thank you. If you like my analysis, a5. And he played queen a7. And now another question, what is rook c8? But after rook c8, the problem for white is that pawn d6 is hanging, and c6 is not threat in the moment. And maybe white can play queen b3 to prepare rook b7. c6 not possible because knight d6. f5 it's dangerous somehow because king can be weak. And white has serious contraplay after knight d2, knight c4, and then rook b7 probably. So I'm looking this and I can admire how Nakamura played pawn down, and even so when for example if to look at this position, so okay, it looks like some compensation, but hardly enough, and maximum what white can pretend for it is draw. But Nakamura played so good in this position, or maybe Aronian played so bad, I don't know, but I didn't find any real mistakes from Levon. That only after few moves it it became a game for three possible results. So it's very difficult to understand. Okay, you of course this part of game require more deep analysis to understand something, because many strange things. Okay. In each move, black has serious alternatives. Even here, for example, e4 is possible to consider. If queen takes a6, then just e3 and rook e8. Give the pawn, but have threats. But okay, it's practically not so easy. Okay, maybe it's equal position, but it's uh, it's not obvious, at least for me. F5 he played finally. Knight d2, rook takes b4. Probably no special choice because white wants to take on b8 and a6. If rook goes somewhere, queen b3, rook b7, and e5 makes. Yes, of course. He takes e4. So he played e4 only now, and now e3 it's threat. But knight b3. E3 is a problem that white has e3 is also d4. Even there was an exchange before. If I accepted draw, and I know I am winning. Okay, sometimes in Simu it's possible, or in time trouble. Okay, sometimes it's possible, but of course it's not something typical because if I feel that I am winning, I'm trying to win. So bishop f6. So Levon defended against queen d4 check, and now e3 is threat. So if b5, he will take, and then we'll play e3. He has quite serious contraplay. So king g2. Now if e3, white has f4 option. And not so clear what black can do. h4 played Levon. The problem of black, of course, is b5. For example, queen b6 is hardly good defense against b5 because white can play b5 anyway, and after a b6, queen c6 and passed pawn are extremely dangerous. Of course, queen c6 immediately not good because queen takes b4, but b5 it's good. So this situation suddenly became very dangerous for black. So h4 he played, g takes h4. And black cannot take on h4, of course, as I explained it already, because of queen takes queen d4 check. But yes, without queens, just b5, a6, very simple plan. But here it's interesting moment, by the way. For example, Levon played king f7. What about e3? So f4, more or less predictable move, and now black can try something. So bishop takes h4, of course, impossible because this if bishop e1, b5. So it not helps for black. But my idea after f4 is to play e2. And after queen takes e2, bishop takes h4, and white has no check from d4 anymore. But and after b5, a takes b5, white cannot take on b5 because queen f2 check. So white should play something like queen d2 probably to prepare queen d4. But after queen d2, black has queen b7, and but queen c3 probably, bishop f6, queen c4. Okay, so we can continue something like this. Bishop f6, queen c4. So white defended, but now queen a7 is possible. And now black wants to penetrate on e3. So if king f3, for example, even queen g1 immediately is possible after queen takes c7, king h6. So black can just start with king h6 and this idea king g1. So this is a quite interesting resource for black. Difficult to estimate this position. Okay, I'm sure, by the way, that Levon considered it, but also probably queen b2 is possible. But okay, bishop f6 is possible. It's knight d4 instead of queen c4. Knight d4, no. Knight d4 not possible because I will just take d5 is check. Okay, probably you mean knight d4 in different position. Okay, but king f7 played Levon with obvious idea take on h4 and not allow check from d4. So if b5, black can take on b5, take, and take on h4 with unpleasant attack against f2 pawn. h5, so played Hikaru, g takes h5, b5. So what does it mean? It means that, for example, if b5 immediately takes, queen d7 check, and after king f8, white has no checks anymore, and there is no idea how to defend f2 pawn. But without g6 pawn, white can take on f5 in this variation. So if compare b5, if now black doing the same, queen d7 is possible. If king go back, queen takes f5. So if king g6, queen e6. This is quite unclear. So looks like bishop f6 is only move for black, because other moves are obviously bad. If king g5, queen e7, if other moves with king, white can just take on f5, so bishop f6. But what is this? Even a6 is possible to consider. This idea if queen takes a6, knight d4. Although probably a6 not the best, because queen b6. I don't know what is this. It's at least complicated. So Aronian played e3 immediately. f4 played Hikaru. Right now it's necessary to calculate. If take on a6, black will take on f2 with idea queen e3 in some. Only question how strong it is. It's not obvious, at least for example, it's possible to take, and after take to play knight d2. If queen e3, knight f1, for example. And by intuition, I would prefer white in this position. Queen c8, in which moment queen c8? You're asking about queen c8, but exactly in which moment you mean queen c8? Here queen c8? No, queen c8 hardly, because queen takes b3, queen takes f3. No, I will take on b3, and after queen f3 check, so it's black has at least draw, and probably even more than draws. Okay, at least perpetual. But so b takes a6 was interesting alternative to f4, but f4 played Nakamura, queen b8 played Levon, king f1. So it means that if takes on a6, black has e2 idea. But also queen g8. King g8, king f3, and then okay, maybe actually this is real threat. And if this, queen g1, black has, if queen takes c6, king g6. But okay, it's far from clear. So for example, check this, play this. What is this? Queen g2 is threat, although bishop h4 may be possible. And after queen g2, black can take an e2, but after bishop h4, probably white can do something else, knight d4, for example. What is this? Difficult to say. So white is ready to come with king to d3. Okay, it's extremely risky. So it's possible. So king f1, just prophylactic move against queen g8 check. A takes b8, queen c6, e2, level, and queen e7. So he wants to penetrate on g1. Now queen on g1. White has very strong passed pawn, but black has many checks, and Not so easy for white to demonstrate that they have advantage here. a7, bishop g5, so last step to be queen, but again not so easy. So black has some ideas, for example, if queen c2, queen f4, queen, check, check, this. No, queen f4 is not possible because king g2, so queen takes h3. It's correct and easy to see that white cannot avoid perpetual check. So, perpetual check. So queen a5 before. I don't know if it's everything totally forced, but now game ended with perpetual check. So this is was very complicated game. So and okay, probably in some moments important mistakes, but okay, it's a good level of both. So after the opening preparation in this variation was much better for Levon, and with black he even fight for advantage. But then after extra pawn, I have feeling that somewhere he made maybe not just blunders but inaccuracies, and game was started again for three results. Even in the final stage, it was more dangerous for Aronia, in my opinion. But okay, it's draw. So let's consider Italian. So bishop c4, bishop c5, d3, knight f6. In this move order, also possible to play d6 immediately, because, for example, after c Ola, ¿de qué país estás? Ah, eres un gran maestro. Mucho placer conocerte. Pero ¿de qué país estás? So after bishop c5, c3, black needs to play knight f6, because if play d6, d4, okay, so bishop b6 is not possible because of losing the pawn. After ed, that's the Chile, okay. After ed, cd, uh, white has advantage in the center. So because of this, black need to play knight f6. Okay, great. Alekhine tried to play bishop b6 or queen e7, d4, bishop b6, but objectively it's line dubious. For example, a4, a6, d5, knight d8, a5, bishop e7, d6 in this possible line, and not so pleasant for black. So now almost nobody playing queen e7, but Alekhine tried it many times. Hola Iván, estábamos jugando varias partidas. Bueno, entonces, so bishop c4, knight f6, bishop c4, bishop c5, sorry. But after d3, it's a different story. Because white has no threat to play d4. So now knight f6 is possible move, but totally possible start with d6 as well. This is even more flexible move because knight g5 is no threat, because after knight h6 black has no problem at all. And if white plays something like standard, for example, castle, black has plan h6, if c3, queen f6, for example, and then knight g7. So this is a quite interesting plan. But important to know that just in this position, knight a5, it's not a good idea. Looks very attractive uh, in first view, because black wants to take to exchange important bishop, but actually knight a5 is mistake, because bishop b5 check, c6. After natural, bishop a4, b5, it's totally okay for black, but the problem is d4 here. And after e takes d4, white has two possibilities: bishop e2 or bishop d3. For example, bishop d3 and knight a5 and bishop c5 are terrible. So white has very unpleasant threat a3, b4. So after b5, even a4 is possible. So this position is it's not good. So here, but okay, after castle, black now can play knight f6 or utilize plan which I explained it with h6, queen f6, bishop b6, knight g7. So it's possible also start with bishop f6 and then play this and queen f6, knight g7 plan. So it's more flexible move. Університет імені Тараса Шевченка, це в Києві. Університет Ukrainian. So, but knight f6, of course, natural move, castle d6, c3, a6, a4. This is modern theory. Old theory is bishop b3 here, castle, for example, knight b2, bishop a7, rook e1, and if knight g4, for example, rook e2, rook a8, h3, knight h6, and now if white is playing knight f1 or knight c4, black has quite a good contraplay after f5, bishop h8. But opening doesn't support this one, because there is strong idea which French grandmaster Lagrand already demonstrated. So the idea to play d4. And after takes, so after knight takes d4, knight takes d4, bishop takes d4, knight f3. White has more than enough compensation for the pawn because of very bad knight on h6. So bishop goes somewhere, bishop f4, for example, then queen d2 and c1 coming. So this is в Київ їхати. Я не збираюся до Києва зустріч. But of course, here knight g4 is not only for black, totally possible to play something like h6, if knight f1, rook e8, with idea bishop e6 and take with rook. Bishop e6 possible immediately. It's but the structure I prefer to play with white. If white is played accurately, it's difficult. So some problem with sound. If white to play accurately to create contraplay is on F line is difficult. As white can prepare d4 later to have better perspective. Endgame, okay, depend which kind of endgame, but usually white can play to prepare d4 in middle game, but endgame slightly better for white, I think. If image that queens disappeared from the board, yes, certainly I would prefer white in this position. Yes, I played rook e8, bishop e6 plan against Kramnik, for example, in Legend tournament. So it's quite popular plan. Okay, but a4 is modern line. Bishop a7, knight a3. So this is idea. Knight c4 and bishop e3. Knight e7 played Nakamura. Knight c2, knight g6, bishop e3. Very understandable. So takes, castle, a5. White is waiting for space in queen's flank. c6 looks like black is preparing d5 in some moment. Bishop b3, prophylactic moves, and now if black plays d5, e takes d5. Looks very logical, this idea. If c takes d5, d4, isolated pawn usually is in favor of white. If e4, knight e5, and this kind of position looks like more pleasant for white. Who knows, maybe it's playable for black. But for example, if rook e8, white can take and then play f3, and d5 seems like weakness in this position. Maybe. But bishop e6, maybe f takes e4, knight takes e4. Maybe black has some contraplay, by the way, but I'm not sure. Also, here f4 is possible to consider, because take on f3 it's hardly good for black. It's possible take and play bishop e6, but a little bit passive. Black is not taking, so white has planned g4. How do you find? Okay, so I'm just trying to consider move which I like. So it's okay. There are in such type of positions there are many standard ideas already. So if you know these ideas, it's more easy. But always you need to have fresh view in each position, because only one detail change it and new ideas can appear. So for example, after c6, d5 is threat, but after bishop b3, d5, it's already risky position. So Hikaru played h6. Bishop c2 played Levon. Looks like he is preparing d4. So bishop c4, it's idea to defend e4 pawn and to prepare d4. Of course, other moves was possible, like rook e1, for example. But rook e8 and now rook e1. Extra defense in Nimzovich style, and white is preparing for d4. So immediately d4 was risky somehow. After takes, c5, queen c4, bishop e6, so it's not so pleasant for white. So rook e1, prophylactic move, and after queen c7, finally d4 was played. Of course, white could play something else. There is choice, but d4 is principle. E takes d4, queen takes d4. And difference that queen d2 he played. And now knight takes e4 is impossible, because knight d5 is coming. And black is losing material. f5 to knight e4, queen e1. Interview today, but f5 to knight e4, queen e1. What you mean? But I don't remember interview today, any interview from today. F5, okay. So, okay, so knight takes e4, it's forbidden now. Against the Magnus Carlsen. Okay, don't remember this moment in which position f5. But okay, so I want to concentrate now versus a female player, maybe not e4, but the crazy move Queen e1. The knight returned. Okay, okay, so from Gibraltar. Okay, I don't understand what you mean, but anyway, uh, so you can explain later which concrete game it was or which concrete Tanya such there. Okay, against the Chinese woman I played. Okay, so queen takes d4, c5. Queen d2 played Levon, and knight takes e4. It's not possible now. It's quite easy, of course, and impossible to believe that grandmaster can play knight takes e4 even in blitz, maybe even in bullet. So bishop g4 played. Positionally, black is worse, so Nakamura is looking for counter replay. So after bishop g4, black already has threat to take on e4 maybe, because white queen is attacked and rook e8 is already protected. So Levon took the bishop. Okay, we can think if there are any alternatives. Probably there are no. If rook a4, for example, bishop d7, this tempo is possible. So rook a4 is hardly good idea. So knight take g4, it looks like very natural and almost forced move because black has bishop takes f3 also threat, and then knight h4, something, or queen d7, queen h3. So knight take g4 is more or less forced. Knight take g4. Now queen d1. So okay, I always have impression in chess if I see move. It's question. It's good move or bad move or possible move. But for example, Queen D1, this move which it's difficult start to consider. So white has many moves. Black has no threats. It looks like Queen. Is in good position on d2. Rooks are good connected. So why queen d1? It's very deep, but okay. So, for example, I like to show the example what Nizhmedinov played against Keres. So after bishop b5, a6, bishop a4, d6, he it was just I need to remember how it was c3. Yes, c3, bishop d7, d4, knight g7, Keres system. Bishop b3, h6, and now knight g1 suddenly. Nizhmedinov played against Keres with idea knight e2, f4. So it's okay. It's another question how good is knight g1, but for me it's mm, more important question how such a move can appear to the head. And so queen d1, it's more or less same time of moves. But okay, so of course, if strong grandmaster doing such move and move 20, so this is not a home preparation, of course, and not an in time trouble. No, I prefer 19 plus 30 without any without any addition on move 40. I prefer, but okay, it's my prefers. So queen d1 idea that in this structure c4 pawn is weak and white wants to transfer knight. Knight d2, knight c4. Thank you. Okay, so special course Italian games. Okay, it's difficult to understand for everybody. And for example, I will never understand what is Anand doing in this opening. So usually he plays a6 and white plays a4, and after some very normal moves, he plays a6, a5. So it's for me it's something mystical. But okay, so queen d1 was played by Levon, much more natural looks before. So idea to defend pawn a5 and to prepare bishop b3. So it looks like okay, white is slightly better, but only question how much better. Okay, maybe knight e5 is possible to consider. Attack the knight. And rook e3 not possible because knight c4. If knight takes e5, d takes e5, and rook d8 is coming. But okay, so now white probably can play bishop d1. So it's not so easy, by the way. What else is possible to consider? So knight g e5, it's a threat somehow for white. Okay, so now we can think if maybe queen d1 here was more precise than queen d2, but it's of course not obvious. After queen d1, nobody will play bishop g4, but what to play? So if, for example, knight e4, of course, knight d5. So what alternatives? If bishop d7, knight c4 is possible. Immediately attacked the pawn. If rook e6, for example, knight b6. Rook a8, knight takes d7. And black cannot take with queen because bishop a4 is coming. So if take with knight, okay, white has also idea bishop b3. And if, for example, take, something can happen with bishop takes f7, but probably it doesn't work. So, because black has rook e6 and then. Okay, so maybe instead of bishop b3, I can do something else. What else also? Okay, so bishop d7, we are considering knight c4 is natural, rook e6. Okay, also knight c4 is natural, knight d2 is also possible to consider with idea f3. But only question after f3 d5 may be possible. Black has contraplay. So knight c4 is natural, rook e6, and knight b6 is natural, rook a8. So knight takes d7, it's possible. Knight takes d7 only move, like I explained it. And okay, positionally white is better, but black pieces are active and then they want to attack e4 pawn. So knight f6 and d5 some moments, so not so clear. Queen d1 was possible, but this is not clear way for advantage. Queen d2 is more natural, of course, because rook are connected. But anyway, even here black could play bishop d7 to prepare bishop c6. But now knight c4. is the problem. After rook a6, white is ready to play rook a d1. So this is obvious advantage of queen d2 if compared with queen d1. Okay, so queen d2 he played, bishop g4. So takes, and Aronian considered knight g5 idea so unpleasant for himself that he decided to play queen d1. So now I at least trying to understand his logic. He wants knight d2, knight c4. If imagine that white reached this, it looks like pleasant. And it's not so clear. For example, after rook e6, knight d2, knight f6, knight c4, rook a e8. And pawn is attacked, and also black has threat d5. But after rook e6, white can consider also bishop b3. Not so clear as well, also because rook e7, or even c4, maybe not so bad. But c4, I'm not sure about knight d4. And suddenly, many black pieces are under attack. So if rook e7, now knight d2 maybe. Now white has control of d5 square. Maybe also now even knight h4 is possible. Like trick after knight takes h4, queen takes g4, and black has no knight g6. So b5. So totally anti-positional move. Looks like at least. But Nakamura played. Of course, normal move if it's possible to play normal in this position is knight f6 here, with idea to prepare rook e6 and rook a e8 and or probably rook a d8 and d5 in some moment. So this looks normal for me. So b5 it's not normal because now black has bad pawn structure and what the compensation. So 8 takes, queen takes b6. And knight d2 suddenly played Levon. So I need to try to understand something. So pawn b2 is under attack, but what is the problem after the natural rook a2? According to my chess understanding, white should be better here. It's question how much better. Okay, so it's not so obvious, but knight d2 is a threat now. c4 it's a big positional blunder because queen d4 is coming and black has many weakness without any contraplay. So what Levon was afraid here, it's a big mystery for me. And so also one of strange moment in chess. Sorry, I need to charge my phone. Just a moment. So I have no idea what Aroniant doesn't like in this position. So it looks like clearly better for white, and rook a2 it's such a move which it's possible to play just by hand without special calculation. But okay, knight d2, yes, maybe of course if queen takes b2 is not possible. Knight d2 is strong, this idea to play knight c4, but he took, so move 22, so this is not time trouble. After rook a2, you mean knight e5? Knight e5. Okay, it's possible, of course, but okay, knight d2 looks like good move. So where is black contraplay? So knight f1, knight e3, it's one of possible plans, but not only. For example, knight f4 doesn't work because g3. At knight h3, king g2 is nothing. If knight d3, white just wins the piece. So it doesn't work. Okay, maybe, yes, winning the piece. Okay, so if c4, for example, to prepare knight f4, knight d3, okay, I will play g3, just prophylactic move. And my plan here is knight f1, knight e3, it's one possible plan. Another possible plan is king g2, f4. Rook e d8, okay, but queen e2 simply I will play, so d5 hardly is possible. Black, certainly black has more weakness than white, and king g2 f4 in some moment would be very pleasant. So okay, after rook a2 it looks like white should be better, but okay, before the check rest of game, I need to take 10-minute breaks and to drink something tasty. So I will come back soon in 10 minutes. So I'm here. Ah, okay, so everything's okay. Okay, I'm here, so rook e2. Okay, rook e d8 was proposition, but what is the point of this move? I can do anything what they want. Knight d2 is possible, g3 it's possible. I'm, okay, I don't see any idea of this move because d5 it's black can never play it. Okay, so if, for example, I even not react, so what do you want? My idea too simple. Knight d2 if knight g e5 to play f4. Okay, so rook e d8 I don't understand the idea, but it's difficult to understand what knight e5, knight d2. Okay, now rook e d8, but okay, so d5 it's not threat anyway because I will take and bishop e4, so g3. Oh, this is threat. Okay, we can consider. So takes, bishop e4, rook a d8. Maybe this is your idea. And after take, and with threat, rook takes d2. Only important question if it works or not. Not sure because white can play b3 and black knight on g6 is not so active, so it looks like not enough compensation for the exchange. Who has more chances? I think Nakamura has a little bit more. Okay, but more or less 50-50, but or maybe 55 against 45 in favor of Nakamura, in my opinion. But okay, so it's equal match. So I don't think that this idea. Okay, even if imagine that there is something here, white can play even this to prepare knight f3 or knight c4. So black has eternal problem with knight on g6 and weakness a6 c5. So it looks like after rook e2 white is clearly better. Okay, it's very far from winning. For example, after knight f6, so black can play this position, but black are suffering. But Levon played knight d2, so surely queen takes b2. It's not possible that queen takes b2 was a big surprise for him, but we can try to understand what he could overlook. So he played knight c4, so maybe it was planned, because if rook b1, queen takes c3, it's possible, and if rook b3, queen d4. So this idea doesn't work. If queen d4. Okay, maybe he overlooked queen d4. It's okay. Looks like two primitives that he considered only queen a5, knight c4, and decides that this is totally fine for white and overlook queen d4. But okay, so okay, everything is possible, but it doesn't look like true because queen d4 is not so difficult move to see. If you have time, of course. But okay, of course, there is also tension of final match, tiredness, if this correct word in English. So if you, I mean, if you feel yourself tired, is correct word tiredness. My English is far from perfect, but I'm trying to improve it. He blundered at queen takes b2. Difficult to believe. I think he he didn't see something later. So even I okay okay maybe, but very difficult to believe because usually captures player consider in first queue. So it's very difficult. But okay, everything is possible. Sometimes player can lost his normal level of concentration for some reason. And okay, so he took on b2, so rook b1 looks like doesn't work because queen takes c3, rook b3, queen d4 exactly. So knight c4, queen takes c3, knight b6. Okay, so rook a b8, knight d4, queen b2, queen c4 not possible because rook a4 and black losing the piece. But after queen b2, white is 2 pawns down. Armenian forced draw. If, for example, rook e2, black, okay, rook e2, what is this? My threat is bishop a4. If queen d4, rook d2 is possible. So what is my problem? But maybe queen e5, now queen e5. Because after rook e2, I am not attacking knight anymore. Queen e5 is possible. So, and also if bishop a4 is not possible because f2 is not protected. So rook b1 he played, and after queen a2 they agreed to draw. So now everything is simple. So of course players has no possibility to avoid this draw. Окей, ви питали про інтерв'ю, ну, то можна сконтактувати, от, наприклад, з Фейсбуком моєї школи. Наприклад, в Фейсбуці є школа Василя Іванчука, там можна буде домовитися про інтерв'ю. Дистанційне, звичайно. I'm asking about interview in Ukrainian language. So, okay, Italian not so easy to equalize. So Nakamura didn't have total equality after the opening, but suddenly Aronian blundered queen takes b2 if and after queen takes b2 white has nothing, then move repetition. Who is the best player? Okay, first of all, tournament is not finished yet, so we will see tie break tomorrow. But I remember Rapport played in very creative style. For example, his game against Fedoseev, it's very interesting. If we are not speaking about winners, Hikaru and Levon, so Rapport, I remember, played very well. But not against Nakamura. Okay, what else? Are there any more questions? Maybe not already. So about this game I explained more or less. So I will try to comment tomorrow after the tie break. Online not possible because I have Okay, something obvious. I don't know. Okay, so I don't know if Bishop G4 is the best move here. More natural looks like Bishop E6 and then Rook 8 D8, but maybe Black avos as well. But it's more natural. So Queen D1 probably strong move, but now Knight F6. But he played B5. Objectively, looks like very strange move, but in practice it was very successful because Aronian immediately blundered. So it's difficult to understand. Of course, e takes d4. It's very concrete idea. Black could play something else, for example, just bishop d7, rook a d8. Maybe position is slightly worse, but very solid. So and because in some moment black can consider it takes d4 in better versions than in the games. But okay, so anyway, game was quite interesting, especially queen d2, queen d1. It's very unusual maneuver. So it certainly this game cannot be considered like something like dry draw or, or game without interesting ideas. No, so, surely not. Also, first game. So bishop g5, knight b d7. You mean neither for what? Neither bishop g5, knight b d7. But okay. Ah, is if you can knight bishop g5, knight b d7. Okay, of course I can try to explain, but probably not today because I need to do something tomorrow also. But next time I can prepare some material after bishop g5 and sidelines instead of e6. So after f3, d6, d4 takes knight f6, knight c3, h6, bishop g5. So e6 is the most popular move, and other lines are knight b d7 or knight c6. Knight c6 leads to rouser system. Yes, yes. Rapport had many good games. In Sicilian he won in Taimano with black against Grandelius. Quite a good game. So knight c6 leads like rouser, and knight d7. Okay, it was popular in 1960. For example, this line was quite popular. So, for example, we can remember game Stein against Stahl. But then knight bd7 became popular exactly after my game against Timur Rajabov, where was f4, queen c7, queen f3, h6, something like this. Bishop h4, e5. So I remember that I played this line against Rajabov, but I don't remember exactly. So f4 was, I remember that queen c7 I played, but what was after I don't remember, but it's easy to check in database. So I played the slide against Tibur Rajabov. I made draw more or less quickly, and after this game, knight bd7 became extremely popular again after 1960. So, but for today, I'm not ready for explanation. Of course, I know that, for example, according to Nagy, the main move is queen e2. Queen e2 here. Yes, queen e2. Yes, queen e2. and yes, queen e2, and there is some theory h6, bishop h4, g6, f4, e5, something like this. Takes, takes, castle, something like queen c7, knight d5, knight takes d5, e takes d5. So something like this is theory, but okay, so next time I can open book of Nagy and try to understand his explanation about Queen E2. But what is the reason of Queen E2? Why not here Queen E2? What is the main difference? Or maybe here I played E5. Is it possible? I don't remember exactly what was my game against Timur. Was okay, but I will check it. So sometimes I need to refresh my own games in memory. And sometimes it's happens that, for example, some player played line, but uh, I just not remembers that he plays against me exactly. E5, yes, 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 e5, and after knight f5, h6, something like this, right? So something like this was my game against Timur. Okay, thank you. Okay, for example, it's quite often. I remember that I analyzed Slav defense with women grandmaster from Azerbaijan, Günay Mamadzada. And in this position, something like this, bishop g4, knight b7, bishop g2, f6, castle. I told, okay, so I told her that I remember that Nakamura played long castle in this position. And we started to check database, and it was totally true. Nakamura played this line, Lone Castle here, but only what I totally forgot that he played it exactly against me. This I forgot, but Lone Castle and Nakamura I remember. So Slav defense, it's interesting, of course. Neither variation is interesting as well, but sometimes after knight c6 it can go to rouser after, for example, queen d2, bishop d7, castle e6. Who won in my game against Nakamura? It was draw. And now white has a principal choice between f3 or f4. Also, other moves are possible as well. For example, after king b1, it's possible to start if b5, f3. It's totally possible. Or bishop e2 is possible to play here. And now for black, it's better to play h6 or bishop e7, maybe even the best, because according to my knowledge, b5 it's very risky for black because knight takes c6 and queen e3. So here, as I remember that it's very dangerous for black somehow, but now I'm trying to see the position and why is so dangerous. If bishop e7, e5, knight d5, so maybe this idea. If knight d5, maybe knight takes d5, bishop takes g5, knight c7, if I'm right. But I'm not sure. Okay, so sometimes I need to refresh variation from my memory as well. But this is problem for everybody, and not only refresh. And probably I can try to see the same to look at same position with new eyes, and I can discover some another new ideas. This is quite a good method if you want to prepare something new in your opening repertoire. So, okay, for today it's very close to 11 p.m. in Ukraine, so I want to go to sleep now. Thanks for your attention. Thanks for subscription. Uh, H6, interesting game. Against Marsoglu, yes, but it wasn't H6. Yes, it was Rouser somehow, but what line exactly was, I don't remember. Okay, so I will refresh it as well. So, good night і геджеля. Дякую за увагу.